usual, this December we are going to be asking the question, will Margaret make her Goodreads goal? You'd think I'd learn by now. Hello, my lovely friends, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking about everything that I am going to be planning to read in December. Y'all know how TBRs go. Sometimes they get read and sometimes they don't, and you'll be seeing that in just a minute. If you like seeing someone come up with a TBR on the fly, stick around. Before we get started, I'm gonna acknowledge that my neighbors have terrible timing, but we live in Florida and it's hot, so the windows need to be open and the fan needs to be on, and I don't care if you can hear the fan. I didn't want to melt. This is the only time I have to film this and still get it up on time, so we're gonna do that. If you've been here a time or two before, you know how things work. You just want to get to the check-in and the TBR, go ahead and skip to the timestamp right here. But if you're new, Fablen is a story-based TBR game that I created, sort of inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, sort of inspired by the idea of a choose-your-own-adventure book. I play a character named Magdalene Embercloak, and she is currently on a quest with her questing party. The way that Fablen works is every month you pick a number of quests. In my case, it is 8 because I am a scholar. And then there are also a few other TBR requirements that you have based on who your character is. Each book is going to be attached to a quest, and if I do not complete the book, then I may or may not face consequences for not reading that book. It just depends on how the dice roll. This month, in addition to Fablen, I also have to keep in mind that I have the books that I need to read for the Curious Minds book club. I have the Eras TBR that I am trying to fulfill to get my perfect Eras tour set list, and I am also participating in the 2022 Reading Wrap Challenge. I will be doing the focus that has the currently reading. So in theory, as long as I finish 4 books on here, I'm winning. The way that I am going to be working with both Eras and the Reading Wrap challenges, I haven't decided what books I'm going to be using to fulfill prompts. We're gonna see how my TBR goes, and then I will fill in whatever holes I need to. I have a whole bunch of books. I think I need to read like 20 books in December to make my Goodreads goal at the end of the year, and we're gonna do it this year. It's going to happen. It's happening this year. But before I get started with the TBR, I do want to walk you through what I will be aiming for. We can always change things up if that's not how the books end up getting pulled, if the quests don't match up with it. Changes can be made. Nothing is certain until it's finished. There are separate announcements for both the Eras Readathon and the 2022 Reading Wrap Challenge. I am not going to be going into every prompt in depth because that has already been done there. So for the currently reading focus on the challenge, the first book that I need to finish and check off, you start out with a book that you are over 50% done with. There are a few of those back on that pile. From there, I'm actually going to be reading a book for a vlog. After that, I am going to go ahead and read a book that one of my friends has picked out, and then the final book that I am going to try, and like my aim is going to be to read the longest book on my TBR. Don't know how that falls on the bingo board because we have both the bingo boards and the different focuses, but I'm not worried about that right now because, again, we need to read 20 books in the month of December. We're not picking all 20 of those right now. We're leaving plenty of room for some mood reading, but we do need to read 20 books in December. Going into the Eras Readathon, I have put together the set list that I would like to achieve for this. Again, these may get changed out depending on what books I have chosen, if they fit with better, but I sat down and was like, if I could, what are the prompts that I most want to complete? And then I did put some of them in my little Fablen jar right there. So there's one song for each of her albums and then one for each of the 3 add-on categories, so that's 13 prompts total. For debut, I went with Should Have Said No, which means I need to read a book about a breakup. For Fearless, I went with Hey Stephen, which means I need to read a book with a name in the title. That might be a problem, but I love that song so much. For Speak Now, there was a very hard choice to make between, Sparks Fly and Enchanted are my 2 favorite songs. At the end of the day, it came down to me not being in the mood to read a fairy tale retelling, so instead, we're going with Sparks Fly, which means that I need to read a book about the start of a romance. For Red, the prompt that I picked was State of Grace, the acoustic version, because that's my favorite version, and for that, I need to read a book that was released during my rising or moon sign seasons, so I need to read a book that was released during Capricorn season or Aries season. For 1989, I went with one of the most underrated songs from this album, and that is I Know Places. The prompt for that is to read a book you think few people know about. For Reputation, my favorite song on that album is Delicate, and that is to read a book with a new relationship. For Lover, I had to choose I Think He Knows. It's my favorite song on the album. or Paper Rings is. It just depends on which one I am listening to. I think he knows is to read a book that makes your heart skip a beat. For folklore, I went with Exile, and that is to read a book that is writing using a pen name. Most of y'all might think I did that because Bon Iver uses a pen name, but I actually did that because that is the first time that we see William Bowery show up on her album. For Evermore, I am going with Willow, and for that I need to read a book with a tree by the water on the cover. For Midnight, I am going with Bejeweled, which means I need to read a book with jewels on the cover. For the Target exclusives, I'm going with New Romantics, which is my favorite song from 1989, which I need to read a book published between 1981 and 1997. For the vault tracks, I went ahead and went with Today Was a Fairy Tale, which I need to read a modern fairy tale. And then for the Midnight's 3 a.m. edition, I went with The Great War, which is to read a book about a battle couple. So those are the prompts that I am trying to fulfill for eras. Let's get into checking in on my TBR and seeing how we're doing. Now, when we last saw Magdalene and Undercloak, they had just stopped by the blacksmiths to commission some special tools for Leet to use in their break-in of the alchemist's tower. Now, this blacksmith is not a dumb person. They see a rogue and these tools and they think, there's probably some thieving that's about to happen. And so when Leet returns from his trip to the blacksmith, he returns with a little bit of an ultimatum. In exchange for his silence, the blacksmith has a magic sword that he wants our questing crew to go and retrieve. The sword, as it turns out, was crafted by his father and stolen from his family by an evil knight who is currently buried with the sword in his grave, and he is requesting that the questing crew go and retrieve it. And so we find our intrepid heroes heading out into the countryside to this knight's old grave. Now, the tomb where this knight is interred is a 2-day trip outside of the city, so they stop by a small farm that is owned by a married halfling couple, and they ask if they can stay the night. And here, we come to our first consequence, because I didn't get this book until way late, and it's not getting finished, is it? Nope. The way that consequences work is I have a d20 right here. I am going to roll. Depending on what I roll, I will either skirt by the consequences of my actions of not finishing my book. For that, I need to roll a 6 or higher. If I roll a 5 or lower, I have to face consequences. There is a consequence attached to each quest. So, let's see what happens. That's an 11. The halfling couple, a jovial pair, are very happy to let them stay in the barn, provided that they will help out with evening chores. Not being afraid of hard work, our questing crew is like, yeah, we can do that. That works. After a restful night at the halfling farm and a few more chores in the morning, our questing crew sets off once again to the location where the blacksmith has told them that this sword is buried. Our questing crew makes it where they need to be as the sun is setting, realizing that they are surrounded by what may potentially be some haunted hillsides. And here is where we come to our next consequence. I did so well with my TBR this month. Alright, so I have not been reading out the consequences, but that's fine. Now, a small detail that our blacksmith may have not known, may have left out, who knows, is that where the knight is buried, it's less like a collection of tombs and more a collection of barrows. Now, many parties would probably turn around and just decide to wait till morning. However, Magdalene's particular party does have Catherine Greycastle, a warlock of several decades. Our party decides that they are going to take their chances. The sun is just set. They haven't heard about this particular set of barrows being haunted, and so they go looking around, trying to figure out which one of these the knight is buried in. Now, there are quite a few barrows, and it is rather easy to lose track of time when you are out at night under the stars. And as you might have guessed, the knight that this sword is buried with, not exactly the best person, and just so happens to be a barrow-wight. So for this one, if I fail, I cannot start any new quests until I have finished this book. That's cocked. It's either 19 or a 3. That's a 5. So as it turns out, this barrow-wight has quite a few friends. More friends than Magdalene has party members. And so her party finds themselves in a mildly tight spot. Now, our party may be greatly outnumbered, but Catherine knows 2 things. Beroites. Number 1, they have Umathel Greyfoot, dwarven rogue extraordinaire, on their side. And number 2, she knows how to deal with the undead. So as most of the party in Catherine distract these Beroites, Umathel sneaks in behind them into the tomb, nabs the sword, and they get the heck out of Dodge. Now, going up against a dozen Beroites in full night, it's not always the smartest thing to do. So it's not surprising that our party does have a few injuries that need tending to. Our party is not able to get very far before they have to take shelter. They do find what seems to be a cave to take shelter in for the night. They patch their wounds, they settle in for the night, but Magdalene is still a little too amped up, and she notices that this cave, it goes further than their fire reaches, and so she decides maybe a little bit of exploring is in order. Now, it turns out Magdalene is not the only one that is a little bit restless, and so when she says she's gonna go see what's a little bit further back in the cave, see what's going on back there, Leet decides that he will join her. And here we come to our third consequence. The consequence for failing this quest is, hold on, add 1 quest to your usual quest load. Let's see what happens. Okie dokie. That's a 4. So we have to read 9 books in December. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. So Magdalene and Leet do delve back deeper into the darkness of this cave, and they discover that there are tracks laid down, and there is an old mining cart over to the side against one of the walls. Now, knowing that sometimes there are hidden riches in these mines, Magdalene and Leet decide that this 2 of us, let's just go a little bit further back. And eventually are met with a bricked up wall blocking the tunnel leading further into the mine. Now, of course, both of our heroes know that sometimes you find things in mines that you'd rather not deal with the dead of night after you've been attacked by Beroite. They're going to leave this wall be. Now, the brick wall doesn't seem like it's going to do too much if something decides it wants to come through it, so they head back to the party, setting a few traps, putting a few magical warnings in place so that should something decide it's coming at them, they will have some warning. After a rather fitful night of rest, Magdalene and her questing crew do just go ahead and push through and get back to Farwater. Now, when they arrive at the blacksmith shop, it is early morning, but it's not so early that the blacksmith wouldn't be up, getting the forge ready, getting things going. But they come and they find the forge is dark. The blacksmith is nowhere to be found in his shop, and so they go behind to his house just to, check in and see what's going on. Maybe he's not feeling well, and they knock on his door. And there's no answer. And so, of course, they knock again. Still no answer. At which point, Magdalene notices that one of the panes of glass in the window next to the door is broken. As soon as that is pointed out, Umathel pulls out his lockpicks and starts working on the lock at the blacksmith's door. The door is open in under a minute, and our party enters into the blacksmith's small cottage. It's a 1-room cottage. There's a table, there's a bed against the wall, and in the bed, the blacksmith is slumped, blood covering him. He's dead. Magdalene and her party are instantly on high alert, but there's no one else in the cottage, just them and the blacksmith's body. Now, the body is still warm, telling Magdalene and her party that the murder happened recently. After a few minutes of taking in the scene, Magdalene's party sends someone to go get the local establishment, the local constable, to let them know that there has been a murder. They don't touch anything, but Magdalene can't help noticing a few details here and there. And so we come to our second to last consequence for November. Let's see, what's the consequence for this one? The consequence for this one is I will roll on disadvantage, or with disadvantage, on all consequence rolls for December. So, that'll be fun. Alright, guys. That's a 7. We're okay. As you would expect when reporting a dead body, the constable arrives rather quickly. He looks a little suspicious as he surveys this party of 8 questing members, standing in this room with a body covered in blood still, and then shoos them out of the house, telling them that this is a crime scene and he can't have them messing with any of it. And so they decide they're just gonna head back to their favorite lodging house and continue on about their business and maybe put the alchemist's tower in the dragon egg. on hold. Now, when they arrive back in their lodging house, they do find they have a few messages, and as it turns out, the artist that they escorted to the king's court has actually passed their name on to a few of their friends, and one of them would like to hire them as an escort. And that is where we're going to leave Magdalene and her friends for the time being, but not before we find out what they will be facing next time. I do have some updated quests. There's like, I think 12, 13, something like that in here. So more than enough for the 9 quests that I need to complete. And let's not forget that I do also have to finish Heroes Adrift before I can start any new quests. That's fine. It'll be a quick read, right? Prompt number 1. The questing party must make a choice. I need to choose my next read through social media. If I fail, I will roll with disadvantage on all consequence rolls in January? We don't have to worry about that. Hold on. I need my, where is my, give me 2 seconds. So the quiz is going to be between The Feminist Agenda of Jemima Kincaid by Kate Hattemer. I am almost finished with this book. I put it down because the characters were making, they were making choices. I don't like the choices. This is about Jemima Kincaid, and she is very loud and proud about being a feminist, and a lot of this book, from what I've read, is about her kind of realizing that, like, her idea of feminism is not necessarily, like, the best, like, it's very performative. Like, it's not, she starts questioning a lot of it herself and how she sees other women and is she actually feminist and all of that good stuff. The next book is Pretty Dead Queens by Alexa Dunn. This is a murder mystery about Cecilia. She moves to this like small like oceanside town after her mother's death. She moves in with her grandmother, and then another murder happens that is similar to a murder that happened when her grandmother was in high school. Both of these will count for the more than 50% finished prompt for the reading wrap challenge, and then this one will count for a book that is about the start of a relationship or has a start of a relationship on the Era's Readathon TBR, and then this one would count for the Bejeweled prompt, which where I need to read a book with jewelry on the cover. There's the jewelry. I will put the poll up on social media, and you guys will see the results when they happen. Prompt number 2. Consulting the elders, read a book that was published before you were born. Okay. That's a tricky one. When was The Born Identity published? 1980. Dang it. We are calling this very close here, because this book was published on September 16th, 1987, and I was born in December of 1987. So, I am going to be reading Beloved by Toni Morrison. So this sounds like a very, very heavy book, but it is one that I've been wanting to read for a long time because I've heard such great things about Toni Morrison's work. But it is about a black woman who was enslaved in the South and escaped to Ohio, but like the memories of her past, including the ghost of her baby who died nameless and whose tombstone is engraved with a single word, beloved, seems to still haunt her. She's fighting against the past, and then a teenage girl arrives claiming to have the same name as the name that is on her child's tombstone. So we will be requesting that one from the library. Let's do that now. I don't think this one is going to fulfill any prompts for eras or for the reading. Well, it could, if I get there, it could fulfill a red book for the reading wrap challenge, but it will fit the New Romantics prompt for eras. That's a weird combination considering the subject matter of the book and the subject matter of the song, but it's published between 1981 and 1996. That's 2 prompts down, 7 more to go. Okie dokie. Venturing into a locked tomb. Read a book you forgot you had. That's not hard. That's not hard at all. I keep forgetting I have this and that I mean to read this, and we're going to pull out Deadly Waters by Dot Hutchison. This is about a murder that happens in Florida near the campus of the University of Florida. Like, somebody turns up dead, eaten by gators, and then someone else turns up dead and eaten by gators. And the main character, whose name is Rebecca, and she's a journalism student, starts to think that maybe her roommate might be involved. Maybe. This will fit the prompt for Willow. I'm choosing the weirdest ones for these. This will fit the prompt for Willow because it has water and trees. Trees and water. We're good. It's great. It's fantastic. Oh my god. Alright, we might switch some things around, but I keep forgetting that I mean to read this. So, prompt number 4. It's going to be this one. Taking on a new patron, read an author's debut. If I don't finish this quest, I have to choose a book that is 50 pages longer than my unfinished book to fulfill the quest. Okay, I've got plenty of author's debuts, I think. So this should be relatively easy. We are going to go with Anne of Manhattan by Brina Starler. This is an Anne of Green Gables retelling set in Manhattan, and I think it's the author's debut because it's the only book she's ever published. So unless she's published under a different name, this will fit that prompt. This will also fit, well, let me see. Actually, I could probably check and see. So this will count for, I think it'll count for Should Have Said No because it's a romance book. It's going to have a breakup in it, probably, most likely, in theory. And then it is also definitely going to count for an author that uses a pen name because Brina Starler is not the author's real name if you look at the copyright page. Alright, 70, using the Whisper Network. You read a book you don't see talked about much. If I fail this, I have to read 2 books of my required genre next month. Does it count? Like, I'm trying to decide if this counts, if my friends have talked about it, but I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it. Like, it's not a big book that's getting pushed a lot of places that I've seen. Some of these are really easy choices and some of them are not. Since I have to finish this before I can start any other quests anyways, we're going to read Heroes Adrift by Maura J. Moore. This is about Lee and Taro. They live in a world where there's magic and they use magic and it's specifically used to avert natural disasters. Lee is a shield and she keeps Taro from dying because he's a source, and so it is his job to channel the energy away from these natural disasters and keep everyone from dying. And so he keeps everyone else from dying, she keeps him from dying. Some stuff happened in the last book. This is going to count for Great War, I think, because they kind of are a battle couple, depending on how you define battle. Like, they're fighting things all the time. And usually they're having to fight people. Are they effective at it? I don't know. It is 6:30. I am hungry and I still have food prep to do today. So, yeah. Anyways, that's 5. We have 4 more to pick. This one. This is maybe this one. Under the Table Mission. Read a book for a secret TBR or project. I cannot start any new quests until this book is finished. So this is for a project. It's the Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. I've been wanting to read something by John Scalzi for a very, very long time. I've just heard really good things about him and his writing. This is about a dude that he's like an Uber Eats person, and then he gets roped in to like helping out at a zoo, but the zoo happens to be in like another dimension where they are trying to keep these kaiju alive. Currently, I don't know if this fits any of the prompts on the Era's Readathon, but if it does, I'll read it, and it's also going to fit it's going to fit the 4 vlog prompt for the reading rack challenge. So there is a vlog coming for this at some point. 7. Prompt number 7 is going to be drinks with your questing party. Let your friends pick a book for you. Okay. So, to narrow this down, I am going to give my friends some choices. I have 3 books that my friends Brianna and Cal have recommended to me at various different points of time. We have Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. This is about a girl who is bi, and she's just broken up. She runs an anonymous relationship advice service, and she keeps her identity secret, and then some dude hires her to help him win back his ex-girlfriend. Yeah, his ex-girlfriend. She's also juggling the fact that she is in love with her best friend, but her best friend is in love with someone else, and then this guy that is bribing her into winning back his ex-girlfriend, he is someone she detests, can't stand. And the final sentence says, okay, so all she has to do is help an entitled, bratty, anonymously hot, annoyingly hot guy win over a girl who's already fallen for him once. What could go wrong? The other book that we have in this stack is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is a Regency romance fairy tale thing. The main character, whose name is Theodora, was cursed as a child and is missing half her soul, so she doesn't experience emotions the way that other people experience them. And then she ends up getting caught up with somebody, with the Lord Sorcerer. Because she only has half her soul, she's useful in fairy things, and I am assuming there will be a love story at some point. And then the final one that I have on here is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I have no idea what this is about. I just know I loved the Poppy War. I do kind of know. I know it's about language. It's kind of a critique on dark academia. It is about Robin Swift. He ends up going to Oxford and getting into like a very prestigious linguistic program, and it asks a lot of questions about language and how colonization affects it and various different things, and they're asking him to do things that he knows will hurt people back home, I believe. So we've got that. Okay, so I have sent Brianna and Cal that picture in our group chat. If they get back to me by the end of the video, I will tell you which one is going to be read. If not, I guess we'll hold all three of them up for the thumbnail. Whichever one of those does get picked will fulfill a prompt on the Reading Wrap Challenge, though, so that's good. Prompt number 8, shopping trip. Read a book you got because of the cover. Okay, that's an easy one. That's not just because of the cover, I'll be honest. For that one, I am going to read Once Upon a K-Prom by Kat Cho. Look at this cover. Look at this cover. Can you see it? You can't see it. Look at it. Look at it! This is about a girl, and when she was a child, she made a pact with her best friend that if they did not have prom dates, they would go to prom together. And he turned into a famous K-pop star. However, he comes back to keep that promise. So it just sounds really cute and sweet. And when was it published? Hold on. When was this published? When was this published? This is going to fulfill the Era's Readathon prompt for I Know Places, because I don't hear anybody talking about this book, like, at all. So, like, it's going to fulfill that prompt. One more prompt and we are done. Let's shake it up really good. Really good. Make sure they're all shooken up. Okay. The final prompt for December is Mermaid Encounter. Read a book with water on the cover. I've got to have some books with water on the cover, right? Okay. I grabbed the paperback because I don't feel like digging the hardcover out of the stack that it's in currently, but I will be reading the hardcover, I think. I've been meaning to reread this for a very long time, and it just feels like it's time. The book that we're going to be reading is The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, because I've been meaning to reread this for the longest time, because I want to reread the whole series. All of them. All 10 books. This one and The Heroes of Olympus. If you've never heard me talk about this book on my channel, you must be new here. This is The Lightning Thief. It is the first book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. Yes, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, not Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Part of me dies every time someone says that. It's just The Lightning Thief. It's the name of the book. The Lightning Thief. This is about Percy Jackson. He is a troubled kid. He has been kicked out of many, many schools, and at the age of 12, he discovers that the reason his father has been absent his entire life is because his father is Poseidon. And he ends up getting thrown into a war between Zeus and Poseidon because Zeus thinks Percy has stolen his lightning bolt. Percy has not done so. And so now he has to prove that he has not done so by finding the real thief. So, I love this series. It has one of my favorite characters of all time, Annabeth Chase, in it, and I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. I cannot wait for the show. I'm so excited for the show. I love the casting so far. I cannot wait to see like what these kids do with it. But this has been my favorite series for forever. I don't think it's ever going to change. I don't think it's ever going to change because like you can't top Percy and Annabeth. Can't do it. Nope. So anyways, here we are at the end of the TBR. I'm also going to use this to count for the delicate prompt because there's a new relationship in this for sure. They don't know it yet, but there is. I mean, if you call there are like several new relationships in here if like you count friendships and also enemy ships. So here we go. Margaret from the future here. They did get back to me before we were done filming this TBR, and Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater is the one that won when I sent them well, first I sent them saying, hey, I need you to choose one of these 3 books, and then I didn't send the picture, and people were confused. Not confused. They gave me a hard time about it because they knew I didn't send the picture. But anyways, we have this one. I'm excited. There's so many short books on here. I love it. This, I don't think prompts on the Eras TBR, but like, that's fine. Books I will be reading in the month of December, or at least most of them. Some of them I may not need to read. Well, yeah, most of them. So here we go. This is it. This is what I'm reading. I'm actually pretty happy with that. I only have 4 books that I need to fill in for the Eras Readathon, so that's good. Currently, my Eras TBR looks like this. We will go from there as, yeah, that's where we'll go. That's what we'll do. If you are at all interested in the Eras Readathon or the Reading Wrap Challenge, you can check out the videos that are going to be right over here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!